No, I mean, I wish I was this talented that this would be the first movie that I ever produced. But no, I've actually been working in production since 2008. And this is, I think, this would be my 5th film I've worked on. But I would say, yeah, this is definitely my first film where I was producing entirely independently on my own without co-producers. A feature film. I've produced many commercials as well before independently, and typically I'm working with other producers, but this is the first, I guess, film of this size that I've produced independently, yeah.
Okay, so your first independent production then. Congratulations again, because I do think that's a pretty big deal. While I was at AFRIF, and I'm so happy that we get to have this conversation, Bibi Sasore, also, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's great to have you join us for this one.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Exciting to be here.
Now, during AFRIF this year, I had a short conversation with Wale Ojo about Breath of Life, and I could sense the enthusiasm, and I could sense the interest that he had. So we talked about the nature of the movie, and there was that conversation around it being a period piece. Now, when you say period piece, it casts most people's mind back to, a certain look to the film, a certain thing to the movie, but I would like you to clarify that description. Is that how you would describe the movie? Or would you like to add to that? And Eku Edewor, I'd like you to, pick up with this as the producer of the film.
Bibi?
No, I think she wanted you to answer it.
So it is a period. So the first part of the film, the inciting story, the inciting incident happens in the past. So that part of the film is period, and then it jumps forward about 40 years to present day. But we did make some stylistic choices, even with the present day, to sort of keep a seamless visual running through the movie, where it didn't feel like such a massive disconnect. And because of sometimes the limitations of creating a period piece, especially on the budget that we were working with and the accessibility to be able to create an entire world that was the 60s, it was one of the reasons why we shot in Ibadan. We tried not to be as as incredibly accurate as possible, because that requires a lot of extreme detail. But we did try and keep the world as 60s reminiscent as possible. We did take liberties here and there. I'm sure historians will definitely say, well, that's not entirely accurate, but it was more about the feeling of the film more than anything. And I do think the feeling of the film does sometimes feel like an entirely period piece, but it does actually exist in present day. And one of the things that we never show mobile phones, for example, even though mobile phones do exist in 2003. So it was more of like an expression of a world that we wanted to exist. And even though we shot in Ibadan, it's not set in Ibadan. So we took liberties with a lot of things.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Bibi Sasore, would you like to jump on that same question as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things that Nollywood sort of, I wouldn't say struggles with, but one of the traps we sort of have is we want things to be sizable and sort of seismic, right? We think that's where the attraction is. That's the divide, the chasm between us and Hollywood is budgets and size and things of that nature. So whether it be our action pieces, even the slapstick comedy, we tried to do these sort of really big sort of set pieces. So we knew we needed some of that, but we needed to do it in a way that was contained, in a way that was, that gave us the ability to do it at the level that we would be proud of. Eku and the team like to call it our really small, big film. And the way we did that was to say, just the inciting incidents and what sets up the story and the journey for these characters, which is only about the first 12 minutes of the film, should be a period piece. But because it's all contained in a small town, most of it happens in one house, it feels like the period runs through. So that's the cheat, that's the conceit that we use through the film. But really, it does span, actually it spans 100 years. It goes from 1960 all the way to 2060, if you watch the film. But we are able to sort of contain those things in ways that we can represent visually as accurately as we can in sort of a bit of a fantasy format. It has a little bit of a magical, whimsical realism, like Forrest Gump or Benjamin Button and other